Lincoln. Thanks for being here, Kevin.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for playing my tune.
That's good. You want to explain the background of what that music is? I think a lot of people know that you've been in a bajillion films. You have a network TV series. You're a great spokesman for eggs, of all things. But you also have a band.
I do, yeah. That's a Bacon Brothers tune. We've had a band for actually 20 years, and we're still kind of slugging away at it. Done about 6 or 7 records, and my brother and I put the band together, quite a few years ago. And it's, we're doing some touring this summer, so we're still at it.
Is that right? Yeah, I've been playing that New Year's Day song over and over. I love that, the Mummers thing. It's fantastic. So listen, the reason you're in town, in case anyone hasn't heard, you're being honored by the Seattle International Film Festival with a Career Achievement Award. The festival has shown Footloose and Diner, I think, the last couple of days to kind of warm up the audience. And they're showing your most recent film, which I just was lucky enough to see, called Cop Car, a very tense, gritty little movie. I mean, it's really a heck of a film. You're going to have an onstage interview tonight at the Egyptian Theater. Then they'll show a screening of Cop Car. I want to ask you, what's amazing about you is that you burst onto the scene, sort of the hot shot of the 80s, this sort of musical movie that took the world by storm, Footloose. You've been doing this for now 30 years. What surprises you most about your career so far, Kevin?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, the idea that you can make a living as an actor is a pretty far-fetched notion. And luckily, right? I didn't really realize that when I started out. I was so driven as such a little kid, and I was so determined that this was the thing that I was going to spend my life doing. But when I stop and look back, which I honestly rarely do until I get to something like this. If somebody says, we're going to give you a Lifetime Achievement Award, I mean, first off, I just never really think in those terms. It's the only time I really look back. But when I look back, I say to myself, well, it is tough. It is tough to hang in there, and it is tough to get even one gig as an actor. So I feel really grateful that I've been able to make a career of it.
Yeah, it really is incredible. I wanted to ask you, since you came out of the chute, you were in Animal House, then you had a great role in Diner, probably the most dramatic. It's an ensemble movie, but you probably had the most dramatic of all the roles in Diner. But Footloose is the movie that sort of puts you on the map for eternity. I was wondering, in terms of a working actor, which you are now for all these years, was Footloose more of an albatross or the ultimate calling card for you in terms of a career?
I think that Footloose was a really, really great opportunity that I really didn't know how to use to its best advantage.
Oh, is that right?
Because when the movie came out, I had gone to, I'd gone to acting school in New York when I was about 17, and took acting really, really seriously, and did a lot of off-Broadway, and the people that I admired were not pop stars, they were like really serious actors, and I had this idea that that's really what I wanted to be. And then all of a sudden I had this kind of like really, really big sort of teen fame, kind of teen following, and I was like, this is not who I want to be at all. So in a way, when it came out, I didn't really embrace the movie, and I didn't really. I sort of, in a strange way, was kind of rejecting it because it wasn't the actor that I thought I wanted to be.
Sure.
And as a result, after the movie, I made a lot of sort of bad choices, and my career sort of started to, go down until I was able to turn it around and say, well, if this is what you want to be, which is really kind of a character actor, then just go for that, and do smaller parts and do more edgy kind of work, and look for those parts that will establish you as that sort of an actor, as opposed to a leading man.
How did that change your career, do you think, embracing that idea of what kind of characters you wanted to be, rather than maybe trying to force a certain type of leading role?
Well, it was huge for me, I got to tell you, because, and it also was kind of seminal, because I was not a kid who wanted advice from anyone. Like, when I meet young people, young actors, I say, listen, it is possible to stay true to who you are and still take advice from people that know stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I could not do it. Like, I didn't want advice from, my parents. I didn't want advice from teachers. I was like very, very resistant, and especially agents and managers and whatever, because I thought I knew everything there was to know about this industry that I was in. Of course, I knew nothing about the industry because I hadn't really been in it long enough to learn anything.
Yeah.
You know, as you get older, you realize how little you knew when you were younger. You know, and so the moment after quite a few years after Footloose that I actually did take advice was from an agent, and she was my agent, and she said, I think we're chasing this leading man thing, and I think we need to put it aside because it's not working, and I think you need to look for parts that are smaller and more intense. And once we had that conversation, the first interview that she sent me on was with Oliver Stone for a film called JFK. And you know, I mean, I'm on screen with JFK for, you know, maybe 5-10 minutes, you know, in the course of the whole movie. And Oliver was willing to take a shot with me. He said, well, can you be transformational in this role? And I said, yeah, I can. I promise you I will, you know, do it. And he didn't read me, but he just, you know, said, all right, you can take that one. And when the movie came out, it really turned things around for me. I mean, that was in some ways a more important moment in my life than Footloose.
Yeah, what's interesting is that you've now also managed to form a career. I mean, you've had a great sort of supporting actor career, but you've also managed to take your character actor business and make them leads in they may be small movies in terms of box office, but really, I think, proud movies. I mean, we just had Memorial Day weekend, and HBO, I think, plays Taking Chance every Memorial Day weekend, and it's a really incredible, powerful movie. And yeah, it's not a big showy role, but it's very effective. You're the lead guy. At the same time, you make these really controversial and powerful movies that I couldn't encourage enough. In like The Woodsman, where you play a sympathetic pedophile. I don't know if that's the right word, but somebody who's really a pedophile who's really struggling with his affliction, and that's a leading role too. But again, it's not a kind of a flashing leading man role.
Well, you know, the idea when I really think about it that there's a difference between being a leading man and being a character actor is kind of ridiculous because they're all characters. I mean, to me, they're all characters. They have to be characters. It's the only thing I can do because I just can't go and play me. I find that so, it's not interesting to me. It wouldn't be interesting to anybody to watch. I have to be walking in another character's shoes. And so when I approach what someone would think of as a quote-unquote character role or a leading role, to me, I approach them in exactly the same way. You know, it just happens to be the character who's got more lines. I mean, you know, that's the way it is.
So, kind of getting back to the Footloose territory, do you have this love-hate relationship with the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon? I mean, what is your reaction to that whole thing? Because in some ways you could see it as flattery, and the other way you could see it as sort of an insult. I was wondering how you took it.
I mean, I took it as an insult when it first happened.
Oh, you did?
That was quite a few years ago. I mean, I've gotten really used to it now.
Okay.
And, you know, I started a charitable organization called 6degrees.org because I was kind of like trying to figure out a way to do something and give something back and I was trying to think of something that I was branded with, you know, and I don't have any kind of issues with it, you know, and my feeling about the idea, the more that I thought about it, is that connections are very, very important to us. You know, if you get two guys that are, you know, waiting for their flight to San Diego and they're sitting in a bar in an airport, and they straight up a conversation, someone will say, well, where are you from? And he goes, well, I'm from Boulder. Oh, yeah, my cousin's sister bought some sneakers in Boulder. And you know, because that's what we're doing. We're trying to find connections between the two of us. So if you take me out of the idea of 6 Degrees, it's actually, it's kind of a beautiful notion because what it implies is that if we could try to remember the connectivity between the people on this planet and the fact that we're all kind of, you know, riding on this one, you know, ball through the universe, maybe we would be less likely to, or let's put it this way, maybe we'd be more likely to try to take care of each other.
So why did you see it as an insult initially then?
Because I thought it was a joke sort of at my expense, that can you believe that this jackass can be connected to somebody like Meryl Streep or, you know, Laurence Olivier, or, you know what I mean? It was like, that you know, it was kind of like, believe it or not, this guy is connect. You know what I mean?
And really? So, like a mocking tone?
Yeah, like I sort of thought they picked me because, but that's the thing about, the life of an actor is the emperor's new clothes. I mean, you always think that you're going to be exposed for the idiot, talentless fool that you are. You know what I mean? So we're very unsure of ourselves behind all this bravado.
Well, just so you know, so the Tom and Curley Show, we are 2 degrees of separation with you.
Awesome.
Your very first movie, or one of your first movies at least, was Animal House.
Mm-hmm.
Karen Allen was in Animal House.
Yeah.
Karen Allen was sitting in that very chair about a year or so ago. So the
There
Tom and Curley Show has its own connection to Kevin Bacon, but I wanted to make sure that it was okay with you for us to bring it up.
That's
and apparently
okay.
it's okay. It
Yeah,
sounds like.
no, it's great.
One of the things I'm watching, because I've always thought of the 6 Degrees as you're connected to this incredible body of work that Hollywood puts out, that all these incredible films. One of the things that's been most interesting in your career to me is the following, and to see how you've adapted to kind of the new long-form television and multiple serial episodes. How has that been for you as an actor? What have you thought of the product?
Boy, is it violent.
Yeah, it's it was in a way I'm trying to figure that out now because we were canceled last month.
Is that right? This is your third season.
Third season,
so, okay.
yeah. And so it was a very intense and in a lot of ways fantastic chapter in my life, and it was my first experiment with series television and an hour drama. Except for my exposure to it from my wife, who was on The Closer for 7 years, and I directed a bunch of The Closers, so I sort of really knew the world a little bit from that side of the camera. I would say that, when a series ends, I've never done anything that I didn't want to be incredibly successful. Like, I don't go into these things. I always go into these things with the dream that they're going to either continue for a really long time or be a big hit. Every movie I do, even if it's a tiny little movie, I mean, I'm still going, well, maybe, it's going to be massive, So I was certainly disappointed that we had a great success in the first season, and I think our pilot, for instance, was just a fantastic pilot. But, as our numbers kind of started to dwindle through the years, it becomes a lot of personal pressure because I take a tremendous amount of responsibility for the show, for the content, and I'm just one of those people. I mean, I just tend to say, well, it's got to be my fault, Yet the actual process of making the show, going to work every day with this group of people, with this crew and this fantastic cast, and being in New York where I live and sleeping in my own bed and getting out there and working those kinds of hours and in the weather and what we were able to accomplish, I really loved. I mean, I was really proud of it. I really enjoyed it. So it was like my feelings about it are complicated.
We're talking to the great Kevin Bacon, who's in town to get a big Career Achievement Award from the Seattle International Film Festival tonight at the Egyptian Theater. Kevin, one of the things I did since I knew you were coming to town, long before I knew you actually would be able to show up on our show, I just typed in Kevin Bacon and put my DVR to record any and everything that you come up. I mean, you have been in, I mentioned a bajillion movies. It's amazing. My DVR is flooded with everything you've been in. But one of the things that really caught me off guard, and I wanted to ask you about this, you narrated the NFL Network's 1996 Green Bay Packers championship season special. And I was wondering, are you much of an NFL fan, or how did that happen?
Oh, yeah, I like NFL, but I'm not like a crazy fan.
Okay.
I think they just I don't know. I can't even remember. I forgot that.
Is that right? Yeah.
Well, so it's one of those like NFL films kind of.
Exactly. NFL, and you recap their entire. It's the Mike Holmgren who ended up becoming a coach here in Seattle, and it was Brett Favre's only Super Bowl win. I thought, wow.
Right,
so I have to
right.
ask you, because we are still Seahawks crazy here. What do you think about the Seattle Seahawks in that Super Bowl, either the 2 years ago when we smashed Denver, or the heartbreaking loss we had with Patriots? Who are you rooting for?
It was Denver, Seattle, because I'm a New Yorker.
Oh yeah, well that's right.
No Tom Brady.
I heard Spike Lee say the same thing. Okay, so how do you explain
We were
that?
just talking about it in the car.
Oh yeah.
You know, coach is the coach.
Yeah. So you defer to him no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Like a director. You never challenge your director on a set?
Yeah, right.
Fair, okay, fair enough.
Right.
Sounds like territory you don't really want to dip your
Right.
toe into.
One of the questions
I still have to walk out on the street today.
Yes,
well,
you
you'll find a
do.
lot of people who don't take the coach as the coach perspective there. One of the things I wanted to ask is, who is your favorite co-star in a commercial? Was it Michael Jordan? You were in a Hanes
I was
commercial.
in a Hanes commercial with Michael.
Or is it Eggs? Because the new commercial that's out is absolutely fantastic. Who was the better co-star?
Oh, well, you know, yeah, let's see. That's a very good question. The Michael Jordan thing was fantastic, but you know, I was such a fan, and it was really fun. I'll never forget. I think I had to throw. It was like a grape or something. I had to throw up in the air, and you know, I'm not a good athlete, and I kept like throwing it the wrong place, and after a while, he was like, "Come on." And I learned something about shooting commercials from watching Michael Jordan. That is that you don't stay a minute past when you're supposed to stay there. He did his work and was out of there. But you know, the eggs thing was a lot of fun. I mean, it was interesting because it's, you know, just an online sort of thing. It's the first time that I'd ever done a spot for just, you know, kind of digital. And they pitched this idea, and it seemed funny, but I thought that the realization of it from the director and from the two actors that they cast to play that husband and wife team was really, really funny, and we got a lot of good response. So, you know, in this day and age, you know, it's part of the business.
Speaking of funny, getting a lot of response for the 30th anniversary of Footloose. You did an amazing recreation of Footloose on the Jimmy Fallon Show. It has gotten 18.5 million hits on YouTube, and you look as fit and as trim as you did in your 20s. What was that experience like recreating Footloose, and did you do it begrudgingly? And how do you stay so trim?
Well, I'll tell you what happened was I went, you know, I noticed that on these talk shows nowadays, there is this kind of viral piece of it that you hope is going to happen if you go on a talk show. It's not just the appearance, it's like these little bits and stuff like that. And Jimmy had been doing such really kind of hilarious, great bits. So I pitched the Footloose idea to them. And I said, but I had pictured something much simpler. I mean, like I said, maybe like it's us and I'm trying to teach him a la Let's Hear It for the Boy, the scenes where I was teaching Chris Penn how to dance. I think
Right.
that might be funny, or maybe it's something with the Roots, you know, where like the Roots are dead, you know, whatever, you know. And they came back with that massive, you know, production number.
Yeah.
Like basically recreating this entire thing, and I was right in the middle of shooting the following. And the first thing that I had to do was rent the movie because I didn't have a copy of it, and fast forward to the scenes that they wanted to do so I could take a look at it. And then they sent me a video of a kind of you know, with doubles doing my parts and stuff like that. And I got back from work. We were shooting nights, and I got back from work. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, literally. I'm in my kitchen on the computer, and I have to be at the Tonight Show to start shooting this stuff, you know, the next day, 9 o'clock or something like that. And I'm in my kitchen, you know, like dancing around in my kitchen, trying to figure out, you know, what I did, you know, 25 years ago?
Yeah.
It was, I was really overwhelmed. I thought this is a complete disaster. I mean, I never should have suggested this. I'm way, way out of my league, and I'm completely overwhelmed. But, you know, they have they had a really good choreographer, really good dancers with me, a good camera crew, and, you know, everything was like, they made it as easy for me as possible.
Is that right?
Stumble through it.
Well, it looked good. It was huge. You can hear lots more great stories from Kevin Bacon tonight at the Egyptian Theater at 8 o'clock. Also, your
no, I'll be telling the same stories. Actually,
the same
No,
stories.
they
Okay,
won't pay any attention.
that's fine. They'll be practiced, just like his dance number. Anyway, congratulations on Cop Car, by the way. It looks like, checking IMDb, you've got like 3 movies coming out this year. You are as busy as you've ever been. Congratulations on your career. I really appreciate you coming by the Tom and Curley Show, and good luck tonight. I hope everyone shows up. The Egyptian Theater, Seattle International Film Festival's Career Achievement Award in Acting to Kevin Bacon. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.